Got a Mac 10 strapped to my back. Trying to mother watch the good stuff, hip hop is back. The hundreds fucking racks. Niggas know they step up to me, they getting fucking clacked. Take one step close and you get 10 steps back. Everybody's getting it, James G, even Jack.
What's good, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Seun, and yeah, I know I apologize a lot because people expect me to post more often. Unfortunately, work means that I can't post as often as I want to do, so I end up not making as much content as you want me to. But I then have to select and make sure I do the most important ones, and sometimes I even end up doing them late, like this one. This one is very important, and I mean, the protests have been going on for over 2 weeks, so I should have made a video on them since like at least 2 weeks ago. However, to apologize for that, I bring more than just words. Instead of telling you about the situation going on in Kenya, which you already know about, I will be telling you not just of the situation as of today, but I will be telling you the cause of the entire situation, as in what led to the government's decisions and on the protests, and also give you the different perspectives of economists and my own opinion on what can be done to remedy the situation, both from government end and from other perspectives. So thank you very much, guys. Please watch this video to the end and let me know what your opinions are. So as everyone knows, there have been protests over the past 2 to 3 weeks in Kenya. The hashtag reject finance bill movement has gone on, and hundreds and thousands of people hit the streets, I think every Tuesday and Thursday, to protest in Kenya. It led to a situation where at least 5 people were killed. There was a picture of, I can't post the picture, there was a picture of a 15-year-old boy who had 7 bullets removed from his body. Alright, and allegedly the president responded by saying, but he did not die. So you have such situations going on. There was even videos of a certain sniper, I think at the top of the parliament building, shooting protesters. So people on Twitter were circulating his picture saying, this is the man, find him. The Kenyan protesters have been going hard about the protests, making sure they don't back off. Now, why are they doing this protest? Why have they been protesting? They have been protesting because the Kenyan government under Mr. Ruto decided to increase taxes on almost everything. It got the tax proposal results in a situation where allegedly a person receiving 50,000 Kenyan shillings after taxation would have less than 30,000 Kenyan shillings left from the salary, and even that gets to be taxed in other ways. Right, leaving less than $500 for savings, according to different screenshot samples I saw online, which I'll post here. Right, now clearly that is not a way or a situation that people will want to accept. So of course they hit the streets to protest. And let me say that I am proud of Kenyans for doing that, for not accepting that. Africans, we have this attitude of being pushed to the wall, and instead of fighting back, we tend to break the wall and get pushed further inside. Yeah. So anyway, Kenyans hit the streets to protest. They reject the finance bill, but they took it further than that. Right? They are saying not just the finance bill. We want you to revamp the medical sector, the education sector. We want you to bring back Linda Mama. Lots of different things that they brought up, and the president was like, okay, these protests are becoming much. It seems like these people mean business, right? Because when they were talking earlier, he wasn't paying attention. He did not give a damn. Right? There were even videos of some of the parliamentarians doubling down and voting. And I think were they voting or planning to vote for the bill, right? Despite warnings, right? So he decided, okay, I will not sign the bill. He made a press conference about that, which Kenyans did not trust, by the way, and they want more than that now. They are saying that Ruto must step down. Right? It resulted in a situation where people are talking about Ruto's criminal history, about the fact that he has a case to answer in court, in the International Court of International Criminal Court, ICC. Alright, he has a case to answer there, I think, as regards genocide, and people are now talking about how he was a corrupt official from the past, and that brings a question to mind. People on Twitter, non-Kenyans, sometimes have asked that, okay, how did they elect a man with this level of criminal history? It's quite simple. You see, before Ruto, Kenyans had a situation where you had the Uhuru family, right, leading Kenya for decades. All right, so leading on to I think it was 2022 elections, people wanted a break from that nepotism, from being led by one family. They wanted a break from that. At the same time, there had been lots of suffering, with lots of the youths being hit the most, especially after COVID. So Ruto came, campaigned, promised to reduce the burden on the youth and grow the economy. So of course, people, in their minds, this is somebody who hasn't been part of that political caucus, separate from the branch, and he's paying attention to the youth, or at least he plans to pay attention to the youth. So it was on that basis that Ruto was voted for. It was on that basis that he won the election. Unfortunately, Ruto has now, it seems, he has now turned, not even it seems, clearly has now turned against the youth. All right. So there is that. So some might ask, oh, and let me say that despite the protests and despite Ruto saying he will not sign the bill, his stance has continued to be insensitive. All right. Perhaps him trying to fight the idea of people saying Ruto must go. There are lots of evidence on Twitter as of today showing that the government is going after people who are saying Ruto must go. Right, charging them for inciting protests, riots, but the particulars of their crimes states that they used words like Ruto must go. So they're trying to clamp down on freedom of speech, on people who are using such words, people who are using such slogans. Right, their aim, it seems like, is to avoid any conversation about removing the president through protests. Right, and that's just one of such. There are lots of other conversations that show insensitivity at this moment. All right, lots of people, protesters have been arrested. Some of them have been released. As of June 26th, about 56 protesters were released by the courts. All right, so yeah, so away from what is happening at the moment in Kenya, the question is, how did Kenya get to a situation where the president felt that they need to increase the taxes? Right, so that they could generate, I think it was up to $80 billion, if I'm correct, to service the loan debt of, I think, up to $80 billion. I think, but for the immediate needs is about $2.6 billion or so that they aim to raise through taxes. So how did they get to such a situation? It's pretty simple. See, in the early 2000s, Kenya experienced an economic boom, which means their economy was doing much better in the 2000s than what it used to do in decades before the 2000s. Now, as a result of the economic strength, their credit rating in international money lending organizations was strong, and the government borrowed lots of money. Instead of using that money to invest in projects that will generate more money for the Kenyan government so they can pay off the loans, the money was used on lots of other things that did not generate money. Corruption being one of the most key stuff. There are instances of Kenyan politicians, as is the case with most African politicians, living larger than their salaries afford them to. Right? There's a talk of a certain politician, for instance, in Ruto's cabinet, in his circle, wearing a watch of 10 million Kenyan shillings. I'm told that is the equivalent of 3 years' salary of the average Kenyan citizen, if I'm correct. Anyway, that's what I was told. Anyway, moving on from that. So they borrowed all of that money. They borrowed most of that money, and unfortunately, when you borrow from these international lending committees, you're not paying back immediately because you don't have that kind of money, right? So you have to be servicing the debt, right? There is interest that you pay every month or every year. Interest that you pay every year, yearly. Now, the IMF is one of such organizations, right? So when you borrow from these organizations and you have to pay back, and your country is not making enough money to pay back, let's say you have run the economy into the ground through corruption and other means, and you're not generating enough revenue, the only way for most African governments, the only way they can think of to make money is either to borrow or to increase taxes. So they increase taxes in hopes of not paying back the loan, but paying the interest on the loans. Now, in an effort to also service the loans as well, they now increased taxes ridiculously, so that they can pay. I think about 60% of the money generated is going towards servicing the loans. Is going towards paying interest on the loans, and I think Kenya's total loan burden is about $80 billion, both external and internal. All right, so them trying to pay off those loans, taxes is what the government now looks towards. Unfortunately, the Kenyan citizens are already feeling the burden of the economic situation. So you trying to appease the lending committees at the expense of Kenyans is not sitting right with them, especially when government officials seem to be living large. Now, someone might ask, what happens if Kenya doesn't pay back their loans? Well, it's simple. If you're not paying back your loans, the interest will keep accruing. If you're not paying the interest, it keeps accruing. So you have more money to pay. At the same time, your credit rating drops. So nobody's going to give you loans when you ask for them. Especially in situations like the COVID period, where government did not make money as much as they should have. Some governments did not make money and run into debt. You can only borrow from those international committees or lending organizations from places like China. All right, and they can also take you to court, right, depending on what your collaterals were, your agreements were. All right, and then they can also ask you for favors that will not benefit your country as a way to pay off those loans. So, as it is, Kenyan citizens are not willing to take any more cuts from their pockets to fund these loans. So someone might ask, what then is the government's what can the government do? What are their options? To me, the options are simple. This is largely a case of the rich versus the poor. And what I'm telling you, I'm not a genius, right? What I'm telling you is the opinions of many economists around the world, because I did lots of research on this before I posted on it. So, first of all, the main reason why all those loans did not yield fruits is because it was squandered and used on white elephant projects. There are lots of politicians who benefited from those monies. There are lots of businessmen who benefited, wealthy businessmen who benefited from policies that did not favor the average Kenyan citizen. So, instead of asking the civil servants and the poor people in the country to pay off these heavy taxes all the time, how about for a change, the politicians take the massive pay cuts? Right? In Nigeria, for instance, you have a situation, or let me not speak as of now. I did not do research as of now, even though I'm sure it is still the same thing. But as of a few years ago, our then CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido, took to the Senate and defended his stand that most of the country's money is being spent on our parliamentarians. Their salaries, their take-home budget, everything, right, was almost up to 40% of the country's budget. Imagine that. Now imagine if these same people were to take a pay cut, a massive pay cut, right? They always tell citizens, bear the pain, bear the pain, bear the pain. Okay, for a minute, why don't you bear the pain for a minute? The citizens have been bearing the pain for the longest time. You bear the pain now. If you were to slash your salary by 60%, 70%, which is basically the same thing you're trying to do with taxes on the citizens. If you were to do that to yourself for a period of 1 year, I am certain those loans will be paid off. Those loans will be paid off. I am pretty certain on that. Add that to confiscating the properties of corrupt politicians who have hoarded wealth. Confiscate them, auction them, and use those monies to pay off those loans. Or use those monies, right, to service the interests, right, and invest in the economy so that you are growing the economy at the same time generating money to pay off those loans. But they won't do that, right? They won't do those things because, again, it will affect the wealthy class, the richer people who fund campaigns, who are their friends and colleagues, who they also are entwined with, right? That is very often the case. In Nigeria, you have a situation where Dangote, who allegedly, for person who can arrest me, and they still can arrest me anyway, benefited from monopoly in the rice industry and the cement industry. Benefited from monopoly, never complained about the economy. Now, because of a 30% interest rate on loans, is complaining that businesses cannot create jobs because it's affecting his refinery. At the same time, the country has no oil to give him because we have mortgaged the oil, future oil, to take loans for today. So the situation happening to Kenya right now is a situation that affects many African countries as well. And the way they want to tax, the way they always want to tax the poor to solve those issues, if they would change that strategy for just a year and say, okay, tax the rich. I'm not even talking about the innocent rich. I'm talking about those who benefited from government policies. I'm talking about those who have embezzled money. I'm talking about those who have profited from black marketing. If you tax those guys, you will find the money. If you stop signing waivers for importations for big billionaire companies, you would find the money. But the problem is they always want to put the burden on the poor guy on the street. And that's why you have the protests, because the Kenyan citizens are saying no more. You won't tax us anymore. And not just that, you have to go Ruto. And lots of things have to be improved. So I support our Kenyan brothers and sisters in their protests. They are doing the right thing, what probably most African youths should be doing as well. And in case you want to support the Kenyan protest, I will post a photo here, a screenshot here, so you see what you can do to support the Kenyan protest. Thank you very much for viewing, guys. God bless.
Pizzo on the track, I'm the one that make him run.